In this video, we're going to go over examples 10.12 and 10.13 in your book. If you'd like to follow along, open the Chapter 10 classwork.xlsx workbook from My Courses and click on the EX 10.12 worksheet tab. In this example, we're going to go over discriminant analysis. So to explain what discriminant analysis is, I charted years of credit history versus credit score. Credit score is on the X and years of credit history is on the Y. And then I created a vertical line at around a score of 640. That was the criterion that we used in a previous example. So what happens is all the dots on the right represent a yes and all the dots on the left represent a no. So with discriminant analysis, what we're going to do is basically a regression. We're going to do a regression equation for all of the yeses, and we're going to do another regression equation for all of the y's. So then what happens is when we score data, we get the results of both equations, which gives us a probability of the new data belonging to either the yes group or the no group. So I'm just going to delete this chart right now because we don't need it, and let's go into our discriminant analysis. So the first thing that we want to do is partition the data. So I'm going to click any cell within the list, and then I'm going to click my data mining tab. Remember, you will not have the data mining tab unless you purchase the add-in for the analytic solver for Excel. If you have not purchased it, you will not see this tab. Anyway, I'm going to click on the data mining tab, and then in the data mining group, I'm going to click partition and then standard partition. And it's got my data range. I am going to include all of the variables. So I'm going to click homeowner and then hold down my shift key and then click decision and then the arrow to bring them over to selected variables. And I'm going to do my 60/40 training and validation set and accept all of the defaults here and then click OK. So then that brings me to my standard partition worksheet, STD partition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here in the Output Navigator, Partition Data, and it brings me down to the partition data. To do our discriminant analysis, we're going to click any cell within the partition data. We're going to make sure that we're still on the Data Mining tab. Click that Data Mining. In the Data Mining group, we're going to click Classify and then Discriminant Analysis. Notice it automatically picked up our training and validation set, and it has the worksheet standard partition. We're going to single click decision, and that is going to go to the output variable. So I'm going to click the arrow next to output variable. And then all of the other variables except for record ID. So homeowner, and then hold down the shift key and single click revolving utilization, and we use the arrow to send that over to selected variables. We're going to accept the default for two classes because we have success and fail. Our success class is going to be 1, so the ones with decision 1 are going to be success, and our success probability cutoff is 0.5. Now we're going to go to the next step in the process. Okay, so our data is already partitioned, so we don't have to worry about that. We are not going to rescale the data, and we're just going to accept all the defaults in part 2. Now we're going to click Next. We're going to check Summary Report and Lift Charts for both the training data and the validation data, and in our next example we will score the new data. So we're just going to click Finish, and we now get our discriminant analysis output, and there's our model, and our training charts, and our classification summary. There's our lift chart, validation score, and validation lift chart. Now we're going to move on to example 10.13. So I'm going to use the navigation arrows on the bottom left-hand side and scroll through the worksheet tabs until I see the EX 10.13 worksheet tab. I'm going to click any cell within the list, and I'm going to click Data Mining, and then Classify, and then Discriminant Analysis. So I'm going to single-click Decision and send that over to the output variable. Sorry, those were on the other side, but I had done this before. I'm going to single-click Homeowner and then hold down the Shift key and then click Revolving Utilization to send all of the other variables to the selected variables. I'm going to click Next. I'm going to click my partition data. I'm going to click my partition data and click Done. In the next step, I'm going to click Score New Data in Worksheet. And in the data range, I'm going to click the ellipsis. And for my data range, I'm going to select H3 down to L9. Then click OK. Then I'm going to click Match by Name so I can match all of the variables. Then I am going to click Finish. I can see my output, and in the Output Navigator I'm going to click New Classification, and I can see for each of my records it gives me the predicted decision, whether it's a 0 or a 1, the probability of it being a 0, and the probability of it being a 1.